Guys, what is going on? We are at the gas station fueling up, got the trailer hooked up, and we are finally on the way to the dealership to pick up our new unit. What's it going to be? Well, if you've seen the thumbnail, you probably already know. So let's go get it. Alrighty, here we are. We're pulling in on our long trip here. Hit major traffic. Probably as expected on a holiday weekend, but here's the deal. We're going to find a place to park here and
your destination is on the right.
Load up the trailer, and then we'll show you what we got when we got it. Well, we're in Go AZ Motorcycles in Prescott, Arizona. They got quite a bit of inventory here if you guys are looking for a side-by-side and you willing to drive a little bit. Looks like they got some used units, a bunch of new ATVs, a load of dirt bikes, some street bikes, and a lot of stuff here. So we're gonna head inside and see where our unit is and sign some paperwork. Alrighty guys, so here she is. We're about 4 days later since we picked it up. Picked it up on Saturday. As I'm filming this, it is Wednesday. So you'll probably see it, it'll be Thursday. So several days later, we did take it on a ride this weekend. As you can see, it's got 87 miles on it. It had 4 when we bought it. So 87 miles now, 87 very nice miles. So I'll give you a quick walk around with it running. You can see kind of like with the lights on. Shouldn't be anything different if you guys are familiar with the 2-seaters. But lighting in the front's very similar. You have your daytime running lights there, which is a nice look if you ask me. I love that. Nice aggressive front end, and then we'll give you a shot with the lights on. Those are the low beams. And flip the switch up one more time. And we got high beams. So all LED, of course. And you can hear the fan kick on there. I don't know if you heard that, but that kicks on at about 188 degrees, if anybody's wondering. This machine really, if you're driving around, doesn't get much past 192. And then it'll immediately drop down to about 181. As you can see there, it's already going down and we're not even moving. So it'll usually drop back down to about 181. And that's where she stays pretty much between 181 and 192. At the highest I've seen it was 192. And that was maybe once or twice. We were out riding this weekend. It was hot. I mean, I didn't have a roof on it yet. It was as I bought it, stock machine. As you seen me pulling it on the trailer here in the earlier clip. No roof. Wife insisted we get it out. We got a new machine. We got to go for a ride. And I was roasting here in southern Arizona. So it was not a fun first ride. Just for that alone, the machine was great. But here you have it. Now, this is not, disclaimer here, this is not the machine that I had a deposit on, actually. When we sold the RMAX and I had mentioned I had a new machine coming, I had a deposit on a KRX 4-seater. But it was actually an ES special edition. So that's the one that comes with the roof and the stereo and the winch. Okay, this is the ES model. So if you, in terms of 4-seaters, this is the middle of the row. You have the base model 4-seater is the special edition. And then you have the ES model, this is the next one up, which is the electronic suspension. And then you have the ES special edition, which is the top dog. Now, we were just going to get the ES special edition just to have everything pretty much done already. You don't really need to add much other than a windshield and, you know, some mirrors. But they're not shipping many of them out just yet. I mean, most of the dealers are getting these at this point, but the special ES special editions are far few and in between, especially here out west. I don't know what's going on with out west here, but everybody central in the country and east seems to be getting them. And I've seen 1 or 2 scattered around through Texas, but here, nothing. You can't get your hands on one. My dealer Had no ship date yet next to the unit that was supposed to come. So in wanting to have one kind of on the channel and before a lot of other people get them, for you guys to get the coverage out there for the machine, I went and bought this one, which in hindsight now I'm actually glad. I like the orange colors and all that stuff. Wasn't 100% thrilled with the bronze on the ES Special Edition. My wife didn't like it at all, but she wanted it for the stereo. The wife likes the stereo system, but I promised her we'll add one to this, and she was happy. So she's happy to have this though and not wait anymore. We've been itching to get out on a ride. So we did go out on a ride Saturday with it, first ride out. As you can see, it's got 80 some odd miles on it now. Long, slow ride, breaking it in nicely. We're not gonna, per the owner's manual, per Kawasaki, you want to either 20 hours or 120 miles for braking. Keep it under half throttle. And then what you're gonna do is dump all the fluids. When I mean by all the fluids, I mean engine oil, rear diff transmission, and front differential. Rear diff transmission's one unit. So you have basically 3 sets of fluids to change. And just like on the 2-seater, this is super easy to work on this machine. The first thing I did when I got the machine was check all the fluids. I always check all the fluid levels on my machines and go through it, check the lug nut torque, all that stuff before I take it out on its first ride. This way, you don't want to go out, something was missed at the factory or the dealer, and you go out and have a bad experience on your first ride. I always run through the machine quick, double check everything, and I'm glad I did. And so, little warning for you guys picking up your new machines. This could have happened at the dealer. I'm not necessarily blaming Kawasaki. Maybe the dealer was checking fluids too, just like I did, and they lost an O-ring, but there was a missing O-ring on the rear differential fill, the rear transmission fill. So that plug right there, that I pulled that out. It was a missing O-ring. It was a Sunday when I was checking the fluids, so the dealerships were all closed. My wife wanted to get out on a ride on Monday, Labor Day, and with the dealerships being closed, I was like, well, I'm not taking it out with the missing O-ring and having fluid, seep out and run the risk of causing problems. So I ran down to my local auto parts store, O'Reilly Auto Parts. Big thumbs up for them. They had an O-ring that exact fit. Popped that in there. It cost me $1.50, and we were good to go. The fluids were all full and good. The front one was actually a little bit over full. When I pulled the plug out, it was actually seeping out. So better overfill than underfill. So fluids were all good. All that. Oil, as you guys know, checking an oil level on this machine. It's one of my favorite things about it, actually. You want to go for a ride, you just got to look at the sight glass, see it's full, and you're good to go. We're on a little bit of an angle here, so it's going to look over full, but you'll see it's right at that top line. You want it between the 2 lines, and you're good. It's great when you change in the oil. You pull your oil filter, you pull your drain plug, pop this cap off, put a nice big funnel in there. There's so much room to work. Pour your oil in till you're at the proper level, and you're good. You're golden. I just love the machine for that purpose. I mean, I could change all the fluids on this machine in under an hour. That's how easy it is. So the R-Max, the last machine I had, that was one thing I can say about that machine is the changing the fluids was an absolute nightmare. So a little bit more about this machine here. I don't know if they've changed spring rates from the I'm assuming they did change spring rates from the 2-seater. They're probably stiffer springs to account for the heavier weight. But I don't know if we're going to have sagging issues or not. Like the 2-seaters, eventually the springs did wear out and people were having issues with them sagging. People were changing the tender springs or the whole set of springs. On this machine here, this thing from the factory, the way it's set up, I got a ton of ground clearance. I'm on soft setting right now on the suspension. And I just pulled it in apart. You can see the ground clearance on this thing is tremendous. I brought a tape measure. I'm going to show you guys. Sitting in the garage at normal level with the key on. You want the key on with the electronic suspension so the valving opens up and you get a true setting. But I'll put the key on and then we'll show you guys some height measurements. This sucker is pretty tall. from the factory, and I checked the springs. They're set at where they should be. So you can see here we're a little over 16 inches on soft. When I put this thing on firm, we're up around 18. So, you know, we'll see. I didn't have sagging issues on my two-seater. A lot of people did. I think it really depends on how much weight you're carrying, in all honesty. So let's measure the front here for you too. You can see that. And that's, you know, to the bottom there, 14 and a half. So 14 and a half to here. So that's what they say the machine's supposed to have, 14 and a half inches of ground clearance. So maybe they mean at its lowest point, but the rear certainly has more. While I got the gauges on, I'll run through those for you quick. You can see with this being the ES model, we don't have the stereo system in here. So now to control the gauges with the ES model, you do get this nicer gauge cluster. Not that the standard gauge cluster on the KRX is bad. It's the best in the business if you ask me. Clarity wise, LED information it gives you is terrific. But this is kind of like another level up. It's almost like tablet quality. So you control it here, up, down, return, select, and that's just for the menu. So if I go to return, hit return, it'll bring you to the main menu here. We can scroll down to audio. If you have the stereo, excuse me, allergies are killing me here. If you have a stereo system, you can, you know, monitor it and work it through here. And then scroll down again, suspension monitor. This is pretty cool. Hit select. It'll show you where your shocks are at. So in soft mode, it sets them at 2. And now while you're driving and the machine rocks, that'll move. That little dot in the middle will move, show you, you know, what kind of incline you're on. And the machine takes feedback, as most of you know. I'll give you a quick rundown how it works. Is it takes feedback from all the sensors in the car, whether you're turning hard left or turning hard right. It'll stiffen the outer shocks for you. If tires come off the ground, it'll stiffen them up. You know, it knows how you're driving it, so how to constantly change the valving in the shocks. So in soft, it'll kind of fluctuate as you're driving. You can see what the shocks are doing and what numbers these are at, and it'll go from like anywhere from, you know, 1 to 5, 4 or 5. And then when you're in the middle, if you put it normal, you see it pops up to 5 there, which is in the middle, and it'll fluctuate, you know, between like 4 and 6, 7. And then you put it on firm, and it pumps it up to 8. It'll sometimes go up to 9 or 10. If you cut a hard turn, you'll see the outside shock stiffen up, and it gives you, if you have this on while you're driving, it'll show you real-time monitoring the shocks on what each shock is doing individually, which is really cool. I tried it out of course while we were out riding, just to kind of see how everything works. And but I'll typically keep it on the main gauge cluster, just so that I can monitor the engine temps and stuff like that. And you can go down to vehicle information, and it'll give you everything. You know, you'll have your trip. You can reset your trip odometer, average speed. You can see we were taking it easy. Average speed was 12 miles an hour, and that was over 87 miles at 6.7 hours. A little bit of idle time in there, obviously, from the dealer, and you know, when we first got it home. And then it'll show also too. You'll see there. It shows you your CVT temperature, which is nice. That's on the main screen as well, so you can monitor your belt. There's one thing Kawasaki's never have a problem with is blowing belts. Similar to the Yamaha, with the wet clutch behind the CVT, you just don't have that issue. And then in settings, you can change, you know, set up your Bluetooth for your phone. It will monitor your phone just to see if you got any texts or calls. It'll show you up on the top left of the screen there on the main screen. And then you can set your service for oil change. I have that on, so in 44 miles I'm going to need an oil change, just tell me, and it'll alert you on the screen. And obviously I'm working the screen all through here. Return, select, up and down. So return again, head up to the meter, and that's just pretty much what I keep it on. On the main screen you have your fuel pressure, fuel gauge, I should say. I said fuel pressure because it reminded me, I want to talk to you something about the fuel pressure here in a minute. And your time, water temp, your odometer, of course, CVT belt, what gear you're in, full power, low power, which is right here. You can put it in low power mode, which in this machine I found it pretty useless. I've never needed it. If you put it in low gear in four-wheel drive, I don't feel like the throttle is too touchy on this machine where you need to put it in low gear. Maybe some people like it. I tend to not like it. And then obviously you drive mode. You have four-wheel drive lock, which you can put four-wheel drive on the fly on this machine. Put that to focus. There you go. So a four-wheel drive lock would be front differential lock. You don't want to drive around like that, obviously, the whole time. Just four-wheel drive if you're on loose terrain, if you need it. I drive mostly in two-wheel drive. Put it in four-wheel drive for some hill climbs, off-camber stuff, loose rock, or what have you. So you'll see one of the first mods we did here. While we're in here, we got the nice Kawasaki key tag. And I also got a boot for the key. The keys don't come with a boot on them. Just come with a metal key. Downside of doing this, actually, I found, and this is coated with rubber, but I like the boot, so when you're washing it, you have your key in there. You don't have to worry about water getting in there and all that. But when you have the key in there, I found earlier, turning it on, it's a little, doesn't go in all the way. So I had to actually push it a drop with the boot, kind of, I guess, between the rubber boot and then the rubber boot on the ignition. Just got to give it a little, it stands back a little bit, so just give it a little push. But I like it on there. It keeps the dust and dirt out of your ignition. And that's pretty much it for inside controls. I mean, it's pretty basic. You know, you have your menu selections, your suspension settings here, low power, high power, which I don't never really touch, and then your four-wheel drive. And on this side, you have your headlights. Keep them off, and you'll have just your daytime running lights, and you know, high beams, low beams. The interior is same as the front. You know, front forward is same as the two-seater model, with the exception of cup holders situation. So you have your cup holders in the front, but in the two-seater, you used to have, like, right behind here, you would have two more cup holders between the firewall and right here. Now you don't have that, actually have the back seats, so the cup holders are all the way between the back seats. So we'll show you that here in a second too. So while we're on the topic there, I mentioned the fuel pressure. There are still issues with the fuel pressure built up on this four-seater, and it affecting the accuracy of the fuel gauge. Just like on the two-seater, they haven't, you know, if you were to roll this machine over, say, you don't want gas spilling out of your breather, the gas tank breather line. So they have like a one-way valve there. Well, that one-way valve doesn't really do a great job of allowing the tank to expand and contract and breathe. So what a lot of guys do is they take that out and put a two-way breather valve in there. It's got a little ball. They're built for race cars and what have you, and they work much better at allowing it to breathe. I did that on my two-seater. That alleviates all your fuel pressure. If you're out riding, and like we were out riding a hot day, and I noticed my fuel gauge was showing really low. It was at like 1 bar. And I thought that was very odd, considering we had only gone like 50 miles. And the tank was full from the dealer. I don't know how full, if they topped it off full or it was just full enough to get the bar to show full. But so it could have been a little bit low when we left the house, but it shouldn't have been showing 1 bar. And so we were taking a break. I came out. You can hear the air escaping there already. And I only drove it up the block a mile. And it's been sitting in the garage all day. That's just the vapor lock that you get in there. It just makes a lot of pressure. And when I did that and released that pressure and I turned the car back on, the fuel gauge came up to half tank again. So it definitely made a difference. It's messing with the accuracy of the fuel gauge and that whole pressure thing. I don't know why they don't just put a different type of valve in there, but I'm gonna swap it out on this one as well. It's a 2-minute job and like a $10 part. So there's plenty of information out there on that. When I do it on this, I'll make a little quick 2-minute video just to show you guys the location where it is. I gotta actually find out. If anybody knows, leave a comment below where the location of that overflow valve is on the 4-seater. I believe it's in the rear center console area. On the 2-seater, it used to be back in the firewall and the door panel. You just pop that off and it would be in there. But that's as far as issues go. I mean, that's really all these machines are known to have issues. The 2-seaters did have some issues with clutch weights prematurely wearing, and then you can replace them with some aftermarket units. And good to go. Supposedly, Kawasaki says they have upgraded the clutch weights here on the four-seaters. I don't know about the two-seaters for 2023, but for the four-seaters, I know they did. I'm assuming they would have done it on the two-seaters as well. And we shouldn't have those issues anymore. So I guess we'll find out when I hit 500, 600, 700 miles, if I start feeling that. The issue would be that when the clutch weights wear out on the two-seaters, guys were feeling like it was almost like a transmission where it was shifting gears rather than a CVT. You never feel that on a CVT. It just feels smooth and linear. Guys were feeling like it was almost shifting. That was just the clutch weights hitting like a little bit of a notch, wearing a little notch in them. And then once it gets past that, it would feel like almost like the machine was shifting. So we'll see if we have those issues here on the four-seater. According to Kawasaki, we shouldn't. They've upgraded the material they use for the weights. So we will see how true that is. But as far as tires and wheel package, awesome. I love the Carnivores. I know a lot of guys, love them. I'm a fan of them. They work great. The downside of them is they do wear very fast, especially if you're on a lot of pavement. If you're pounding pavement, man, I would say probably not the tire for you to buy. I wouldn't go changing them right away when you get the machine because they're great tires, and they're 31s. They're a decent size, and you can see. I mean, we took measurements, and you can see from the side too the level of ground clearance you get on this machine. I mean, my kid can crawl underneath there. So, it's a tall machine. You got plenty of ground clearance right from the factory. The downside with these four-seaters is they don't give you the bead locks, which is a bummer because when I went to the dunes with my two-seater, I would run the stock Carnivores and air them down to like 7, 8 psi, and with the bead locks on there, I had never had an issue. Now, may not be able to air them down as much and worry about popping a bead at the dunes. So that's a bit of a bummer. We'll see. Maybe we can find some. People are always selling their stuff, so maybe we can find some two-seater takeoffs and put those on there. I like the OEM bead locks better than the aftermarket ones, just because of the rings. Once they're torqued down, they're good to go. They don't loosen up. You don't have to keep retorquing them. I've had aftermarket ones, Tusks specifically, and my brother had the Tusks on his Talon, constantly retorquing the rings on the bead locks, and it's just the bolt diameter on those bead lock rings are a little smaller. The OEM Kawasaki ones give you a nice fat bolt head for the bead lock ring. So I don't know if that contributed to the better torquing down and them not loosening up over time, but I'd never had them back out on me. So what we did is, while we were at the dealer, we picked up half windshield. That was really all they had in stock at the time. And then my local dealer, I didn't buy this at my local dealer, but my local dealer had a roof in stock, and then I ordered the mirror on Amazon. The mirror is Kemimoto. It looks just like almost the Kawasaki mirror, but it's like 39 bucks. So clamps on there perfect. Took 2 seconds to literally put that on there. They give you a nice little piece of rubber so that doesn't rub the bar, and it kind of gives you a nice grip. You can see the rubber in there, and I don't know if you can see that. And then on the back side with an Allen, you just tighten it up a little bit, and you can make it as loose or as tight as you want. I kind of got it where I wanted it and gave it a couple turns, made it snug. So you're not gonna need to adjust the mirror obviously once you have it where you want it. This way it kind of stays put, doesn't jiggle around on you. Half windshield is the Kawasaki polycarbonate hard coated windshield. It's a nice unit. One thing about these Kawasaki accessories, the roof too, they go on in like 2 minutes. It's a piece cake. You literally put these clamps on the bar and then put the windshield there, put the screw through it into the clamp with the washer, and you're done. There's a rubber grommet in there already in the windshield. And then the same thing with the roof. I'll get up there and show you the roof. This is not the sport roof. This is the premium roof, they call it. And you can see it's kind of got like some, I don't know what you'd want to call them, windows in there. It's not a sunroof. It doesn't open, but it's there's some window in there that you can kind of you'll get a little bit of light in, but it's not you're not going to get killed with the sun, and you can kind of see up out of it from the inside. This gives it a nice little look, and then you got the graphics, the Terex. KRX4. I don't know why they call it a Terex KRX4. They should just ditch the Terex name. Keep that with the Terex that we all know, Terex 800, and just keep this the KRX. Have this be the KRX. That's the Terex. Two separate machines. I don't know why they're sharing that first name, but then Kawasaki in the front. This Kawasaki in the rear too. You get a little kick up in the back, like some wings. Got some nice lines. You know, looks nice, looks sharp. This roof here runs you $796 plus tax. If you're going to go with the sport roof, which is the cheaper roof, it's just kind of like a textured black plastic, nothing fancy at all. That's the one that comes on the upgraded ES Special Edition model that we were going to get. If you're going to go with that roof, just black textured, it's about six and change. I opted for this one. I think it's a much nicer look, especially if you're not going to do a roll cage right away. It's a much nicer looking roof than the sport one. And one thing I'll say too is, you know, you've seen the rubber grommets up there. They all come in the roof. You just take those clamps, screw them in, set it up there, and clamp them down. I mean, I put the clamps on the ground. My wife helped me put the roof from one of us on each side, place it up there, and get the clamps around. We had this thing on in 5 minutes. So it's nice and easy. They make it super nice. One thing I also like about the roof is this one piece. The Can-Am and the Razor four-seaters, their roofs are all like two pieces. There's 85,000 screws and washers, and no matter what you do, those things rattle. Especially the ones on the Razor. I don't know why. They just like rattles. But one piece with the way those clamps are, kind of spaces it off of the metal, spaces it off the cage, and you don't get any rattles. So that's nice. Same roof I had on my two-seater, obviously smaller, but same roof, the premium roof there. I liked it on that one, wanted it on this one. So that's it as far as mods so far. What we're planning on doing is adding stereo system at some point. I don't know if we'll go with the Kawasaki stereo system since we're adding it ourselves now. It'll probably be nice for like plug and play purposes, but we'll see who else has got something out there, maybe to something better and less expensive. That's always nice. We're all going to do an exhaust, because even my wife said, we had it on the trail, we picked it up, and we stopped out to dinner before we headed home. It was a 3.5 hour trip to pick this up. And she's like, man, that muffler is ugly. I said, well, don't worry, babe, because that thing's going. We're getting rid of that. That's one of the first things we're doing. So we're going to do an exhaust. We'll just get rid of the muffler. There's a couple of companies out there that have them. MBRP comes to mind. And then we'll look at all the options. We'll get a new exhaust. Just the slip-on. We're not going to do the whole pipe or anything like that. You know, so they make it super easy on these. So you got a flange right there, 4 bolts. Take it off. Bing, bang, boom. You got a new muffler on there. Get rid of that ugly-looking suitcase. But other than that, man, the looks of this machine is killer. The suspension handling is amazing. I mean, it's just like riding on a pillow. I rode around most of the day in normal mode, sometimes soft, never firm. We weren't traveling at excess of speeds, maybe 35 miles an hour, just cruising. Just kind of getting the machine good and broken in. And there was no need for the firm mode to be used at all. And yeah, it handled great. I would say, man, it's hard to explain the quality of the ride on these machines unless you actually have been in one. I've had Can-Am X3s. I've had Can-Am Maverick Sports. I've had Razors. I had a Pro XP Razor. If you guys have been following my channel, you know, and that's supposed to have one of the best suspensions. This blows it away as far as handling. That Razor Pro XP out of the box was disappointing, in my opinion. For the hype it got and all the talk about the suspension, how great it was, that thing bottomed out of the box on the easiest G out. Where I literally, if you guys, again, have been following my channel, you'll see. If not, you can go back and look. I had 50 miles on that Razor, and I took the factory springs off and swapped them with Zebros racing springs, and that made it way better. Still not as good as this out of the box. This thing, off the showroom floor, bar none, Kawasaki KRX, best suspension. I don't care what anybody says. You can argue with yourself in the comments if you'd like, but I'm telling you right now, I've driven every machine except for the Pro R, new Pro R. I cannot say that maybe that one is better. I don't know. I haven't driven that one. So everything with the exception of that machine, I can tell you right now, this handles the best out of any one of them. Comfort wise, especially if you don't want to get beat up while you're driving, this is the machine to buy. It's got tons of suspension travel, and that's what else do you need? You know, you have the live valve. We wanted the live valve, just tired of getting out on some of these other machines and adjusting clickers constantly. You know, we go, when we ride and where we ride, as you can see, you know, we come up this road here. Basically, this is our primary riding area. So we'll come up this road, head all the way down to the dirt road there, about half a mile into the dirt, and there's a trail. It takes off to the right. That'll take us wind all the way up through that mountain range, and that takes us up there. So, you know, headed up there, we can be, you know, hoofing it. You know, we can be going, you know, at some nice speeds, and you want to keep the suspension on a firmer setting. Then when you get up there, nice and slow through a windy, you know, road, going through the mountain passes there, and then you get up into some more forest road, service road trails, and they can get a little rocky and gnarly, and you want to, you know, knock it down to soft. And then when you don't have electronic suspension, it's just a pain in the neck, constantly getting out. Every time we stop, adjusting the shocks. This is nice. Flip of a switch, you're done. And I like it. I understand it's not for everybody. And if you're the type of rider where you're riding slow, crawling trails, where you're keeping the suspension set soft all the time anyway, you probably don't really need this. Although it does more than just selectable. You know, like we talked about, it monitors the car and stiffens the shocks as needed, you know, for hard turns and what have you. But if you're just, you know, crawling through the woods and you're keeping that soft all the time, you're the type of guy that keeps it on, you know, one click up from the bottom, and you never touch it in the life of the vehicle, then you don't need the electronic suspension. So, but if you're like me, you get, you know, you constantly varying terrain just throughout that one day of riding. It's great. It's a lifesaver. So that's that. Let me show you the back seat. The back seat space here, leg room and comfort is unbelievable. Like kids said, it was probably one of the most comfortable back seats of any machine. The only downside is the seat belts are not adjustable as far as height goes on the back of these. Now, I know some people are like, put 4-point harnesses and call it a day. I'm not a fan of the 4-point harnesses. I don't drive to where I'm going to kill myself. I don't get that crazy. Or I put my kids' life at risk where they need 4-point harnesses. If you're driving that crazy with your kids in the car, you know, maybe there's some other questions you should be asking yourself anyway. But the seatbelt should be fine for the way I drive with the kids in the car. Now, when I'm in the car by myself, different story. Maybe I drive a little more risky, I guess. But kids don't like the harnesses. They're uncomfortable. They're restrictive. But my son was a little uncomfortable with these seatbelts, even with the booster seat up. The seatbelt was kind of rubbing on his neck a little bit. So we're going to have to do something with that for him. Whether it's a different type of booster seat or what. And he's a big kid, but my daughter didn't have a problem. So we'll see what we're going to do with that. I found it comfortable. Maybe we'll just get the pad, you know, some pads for the seatbelt. But let me climb in the back here and show you. As far as leg room goes, I mean, I'm sitting nicey nice. I'm about 5'7", and I got look how much room I got for my feet. Don't mind my blue sneakers. I just slipped these on here before I left the house. So you'll see all the footwell room is nice. Plenty of room here. You can even put your foot up there if you really feel like it. And then the grab bar, what's nice is you have all this leg room, and the grab bar is here. Like my son can sit back here, you know, being the smallest one of the bunch, and still reach the grab bar in the car. Where in any other machine, you know, him being buckled in and strapped in, he was just at the mercy of being, you know, holding himself up or holding onto the seatbelt because he couldn't reach the grab bar in other cars. In this car, they positioned the leg room and the grab bar in such a way that the grab bar is right here. Like, I don't even have to straighten my arms. If I straighten my arms, you know, I'm out here to the seat. I can come back and hold this comfortably. If I'm sitting in the back of this, it's very comfortable. That's not something that people talk about in some reviews I've seen. So I wanted to bring that up. And then you see there we got some nice big cup holders, little cubby there, a couple little cubbies there. I don't know what they're useful for. My son likes to pick up brass when we go out on the trail that people have been shooting and they leave their brass. He likes to collect that, so he throws it in those little cubbies and it's jingle jangling the whole way home. So that's what he uses them for. You'll see the cutouts are here for the speakers for the factory stereo system, if you get that one. Or even if you put an aftermarket one in, you can run your speaker wires through the doors and cut speakers in there. I think they're 6.5s, but don't quote me on that. So would I recommend getting the electronic suspension? Again, it's up to you. You guys got to decide how you ride and what's beneficial for you. If you want to get the cheaper model of the 4-seater, it's only $1,000 less. You get a couple different options on that one, so maybe that's more suited for you. You get a roof and a winch. Move up to this one, you spend $1,000 more and you get an electronic suspension, but you're not getting the roof and the winch. Me, I wanted the electronic suspension. That was the primary thing I wanted. Everything else I can add, change on my own. That's what I wanted. I like the orange. So it's not for everybody, of course. I like the orange. I like some flashy colors. And to me, it's just a good-looking machine. The wheels are really nice looking. If they were B-locks, they'd be better, but they're very nice looking. Well, here's a little tip and trick for you guys. A lot of guys with these machines lose these caps. They're in there from the factory. You can see mine don't move. But you can, with minimal force, pull these out. And a lot of guys on the trail, they're going fast, hit a big bump, they lose them, knock into something, they get popped out fairly easy. What I do, and I had read about this when I had my 2-seater before I even took that one out. A little trick for you: if you just squeeze this and pop it out when you get the machine before you take it out for your first ride, you'll see there's little tabs. I get a little tube of clear silicone and put a little dab on each one of those tabs on the side facing the rim. Stick it back in, give it like a eighth of a turn, let it set, and just leave them. I've never lost one doing that. You don't see it. When you take your wheels off, the cap comes off with the wheel. You can service your hub, your bearing, the nut right there. You have to take your wheel off for that anyway, so it doesn't infringe on any accessibility to anything. They're strictly cosmetic pieces. So you keep them on the wheel, you take your wheel off, they come off with the wheel. Nice thing about Kawasaki's, they give you a square tire setup, which I love. Same size tires and same rim offset front and rear. You can rotate, put the rears in the fronts in the rear to keep your tire longevity. And you're not burning through rear tires constantly, and the fronts, last 3 sets, but your rears are cooked. You can just rotate them, which is really nice. And 31s, I think I already talked about that, but the 31-inch tires, pretty good for a stock size tire. When these wear out, I'll probably just go up to like a 32. We'll do an exhaust, probably do a dyno jet tuner. And I don't feel that. Now, I haven't gotten on it much. Like I said, kept it under half throttle, but from just how I was driving it, accelerating from a dead stop, with just minimal throttle input, just cruising along, I can tell you it doesn't feel much different at all than the 2-seater. We have 4 people in it: myself, my wife, my 2 kids, and I did not feel that it was. I honestly didn't even feel it like I was driving a 4-seater. I felt like I was in my 2-seater when I had it. That was just how it felt to me. So I really am happy with it. We got the roof on there now and all that stuff, so next ride should be a lot more comfortable and less hot, hopefully. So that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I think we've about covered the walk around, the initial reveal of this machine. Stay tuned to the channel, click the subscribe button, smash the like button on your way out if you like this video, and follow us on Instagram at Odyssey_offroad. You can follow us there as well and see all the little behind the scenes stuff, and post throughout the week in between videos. And I will have a lot more coverage on this machine. Once I've had it for a little bit longer, I'm going to do a video comparing this machine and the 2-seater and the exact differences and what the negatives are and positives, and then some other things I got in store which for this machine that we're going to talk about. So make sure you smash the subscribe button on the way out, and so you get the alerts for the videos that are coming out. Click the little bell, And we will see you guys on the next one. This is Joe from Odyssey Off-Road. Thanks for tuning into this video, and ride safe.